Hello. I don't know if you heard it or not, but Adobe released its Photoshop application for iPad, and it got notoriously horrific reviews, unbelievably horrific reviews. And like, I have a subscription service to Adobe. I have the Photoshop subscription, and that's where you actually pay. What am I paying now? $20 a month. I forget how much I'm paying. Take $20 a month for Lightroom and Photoshop. And I'm only able to install it on 2 computers, which is really more than enough. It's on my 27-inch iMac, and it's on literally my Retina MacBook Air. More than enough for 2 computers. Everybody complains about Adobe, and I would really drop Adobe right now, but for the sake of Photoshop. I use Photoshop a lot less than most people do. I'm familiar with about, I don't know if you know how broad Photoshop is, but it's one of the most extensive, like the best Photoshop expert on earth only knows like 65% of what Photoshop is capable of. There are college level courses on Photoshop, and even if you took years of them, you would still only scratch the surface. So I feel rich in knowing maybe like 12% of Photoshop, just the primary stuff that I need to do. I use Capture One now for basically everything. By the way, Fujifilm raw processing is much better on Capture One. There are still advantages to Lightroom, like batch processing and libraries. You know, if you're doing large collections, there's, you know, Adobe has got Lightroom nailed down in that regard more so than Capture One does. Capture One is working on it. It is a lie. People say, well, I don't like the subscription service. Adobe could go, bleep itself. And I do understand that, but it's not really true. If you're a Capture One user, you will notice that you only get X number of upgrades, and each upgrade comes with new camera support. And of course, there are intermediate upgrades for new camera comes out, then Capture One supports it. But you know, if you buy the full-blown version of Capture, which I did, I bought the full-blown version of Capture One for everything, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, everything. I initially bought just Fujifilm, which is a mistake because you should have bought the full-blown version. But if you buy that, you only have it for X amount of time, and then of course you will not get free upgrades. So what is the difference on the one hand, and nobody ever mentions this, between nobody wants to pay a monthly subscription fee, everybody hates that, but it's the psychology. What's the difference between paying a monthly subscription service, here, pay every month, then you add that up per year, or you pay one time on Capture One, but it's not really one time because, you know, it's going to get more and more upgrades, and major upgrades, whether that be 2 a year or 3 a year, depends on the year and what they come out with. And then you're going to be like, well, I need to upgrade Capture One, but now I got to buy it again. Yeah, and I know Capture One, depending on the deal and the sale, they don't charge you full price, at least they don't currently, to upgrade your version of Capture One, your license. So if on the one hand you're paying every month for, like in my case, Photoshop and Lightroom, or in the case of Capture One where you're paying every, say, year and a half, or what's the difference, you know? Capture One is obviously cheaper, but I don't care how much you hate Adobe, you know, there's absolutely nothing that comes. People say, well, Affinity Photo this. It's like, you know, I'm glad you like Affinity Photo, but it doesn't come within a billion miles of what Photoshop is capable of. I don't care if you love Capture One better than anything on this earth, including your wife, it still doesn't come within a million miles of what Photoshop is capable of. Adobe knows this. However, I laughed at the fact that they're new, and you had to pay like an additional $10 a month for those goofy iPad apps. And it blows my mind. I have an iPad Pro, the most expensive one you could own, the big one, the 12-inch iPad Pro, and this is the latest iPad Mini. It blows my mind that anybody is crazy and dumb enough. Excuse me if I'm insulting you, but you really, there's something wrong with you. If you really Unless someone, is threatening your life, that you would want to edit a photo on an iPad. People say, well, I travel. It's like, I have the most expensive iPad Pro. Yeah, the big one, right? That thing, closed up with its keyboard, is the same size and weight, essentially, as a MacBook Air. But the MacBook Air will smoke the hell out of the iPad Pro, not to mention the fact that it is a billion times more useful. Wait, and by the way, when I make a video on my iPad Pro, it takes forever to process it before I can even upload it to YouTube. It's just mind-boggling. I have no idea why anybody... An iPad is a fun tool, but it's not a productivity tool. If you think it is, then there's something wrong with you. Anyway, getting back to Adobe. I would drop if Adobe did not have... If there's something out there that came even close to Photoshop, I would drop Adobe tomorrow. But there is nothing that comes close to it. There just is not. There's not. I have my digital pad and pen that I use with Photoshop. I'm mostly trained on Capture One now. Capture One is not that hard to learn. It's becoming more and more extensive on the countless things that you could do with it, but obviously it's improving. But it is worth every penny, and it's not that expensive. And recently they've had a lot of sales. And I'm actually not a fan of Phase One. They have non-existent tech support, but so does Adobe. Adobe actually has tech support, it's just not good. But Capture One actually has a lot of training apps on anything you want to learn. I'm completely self-taught on Capture One. They have countless tutorials on how to use all the various modalities and interfaces and layers and everything you want to do to customize Capture One. I'm very happy with it. And like I said, Fuji RAWs are far better on Capture One than anything else, including the latest. I'm running Creative Cloud with the subscription service, just like everybody else. Well, almost everybody else for Lightroom and Photoshop. I'm able to put one advantage. I'm able to put Capture One on 3 different computers. I like that fact. But other than Adobe Acrobat. I'm so sick of the stuff that Adobe does. I'm so sick at how they cripple their own programs. I've been using Adobe Acrobat for ages. And now it's just an unmitigated frickin' mess. I wish they would stop trying to reinvent the wheel. It gets so sickening. And I can't upgrade to the latest Apple operating system, which is Catalina, because my current Acrobat 11 Pro won't work on it. Yeah. And also my old version of Microsoft Word. I don't want to buy a new subscription to Microsoft Word. There's no company I can't... I despise Microsoft. I hate them to hell and back. I don't know, you tell me what you think. If you're a Fujifilm user, you should download at least the free copy of Capture One. You get a free 30-day trial on it. I'm not going to post a link below because I have no affiliate links. I'm pretty sure you could find Capture One yourself on the internet. It'll take you all of about 4 seconds to do it. I hate Adobe as much as the rest of you. I have to, however, use Adobe Acrobat. And also there is nothing even within a million miles of Photoshop for a replacement. So, stuck. If it wasn't for that, I would have told Adobe to get lost ages ago. I've been accused many times of being a shill. People say, why don't you use like Darktable and all these... I've used many of those, and you pull them up and you laugh. I do. Like, this is ridiculous. This is a piece of garbage. I would never... I don't care if it's free. I mean, it's free for a reason. It's no damn good. No. Why would I do that? Why? If you're just, tinkering around with photography and you want And that's just, and to me that's amazing. Someone would get a really expensive camera, you know, and expensive lenses and lighting, and then they half-arse it when it comes to sticking the memory card in their computer. Well, I'm going to download some free crapware for editing my files. Like, oh, okay, so you own a nice professional camera. You know, you traveled halfway across the world to get those pictures, and you know, and now you're going to edit it with that garbageware. People are like, what's wrong with that? I don't know. Why don't you put some white wall tires on your Lamborghini? Uh, why don't you buy some of that real expensive? Why don't you buy some filet mignon and then microwave it and put it on some? So what's that cheap white bread that you get at like the dollar store? Yeah, why don't you microwave that filet mignon and slice it up and put it on some that dollar a loaf white bread? That's, sorry. I thought that was funny. Man alive, it's cold out there. Yes, I'm wearing this hemp robe. I made it myself. If you're wondering what I'm wearing, yes, I made this myself. I cut out the design, which I copied from, you know, what do they call this, a gi? Yeah, copied it, and I sized it from me, and I made this like 20 years ago. Yep, indestructible. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hate Adobe, but I'm stuck using them. Yeah, okay.